Steve Wood, you described a film Hubbard made showing a young boy traveling to a different planet, bringing Scientology to a new civilization there, and it got me thinking. I'm interested to know if Hubbard laid out a game plan for exactly how Scientology was to be delivered in the event of a nuclear holocaust, for example. As I'm sure you agree, it's hard not to write this without a big smile on my face, as I know it sounds completely crazy, but I'm interested to know if he broached this very important topic. After all, if the amount of detail he spent in explaining how to clean a window, one would think the details involved in how to restart Scientology after a nuclear holocaust should be very detailed, should they not? Hey, thanks, Steve. Yeah, I'm sure there are very detailed instructions somewhere, but we don't have them. They're not public issue. They were never issued in any non-confidential form that I was aware of. And in fact, in looking into how this business of how Scientology has archived and stored and kept all of Hubbard's works on media that will survive a nuclear holocaust. I'm talking about steel plates and gold-plated, CDs and records and archival, NASA level technology being used to store this stuff in airtight titanium boxes. I mean, these guys really went all out, and we've talked about this in detail on my channel with podcasts that I've done in the past with a guy named Dylan Gill, who used to work at the Church of Spiritual Technology and detailed what goes on there. So this archive thing is real, and it's very, very serious effort on the part of Scientology. And there are numerous locations where they have these archived places. Twin Peaks, California. There's actually a Wikipedia page about this. You can look up on Wikipedia, the Church of Spiritual Technology, and you can find that they have numerous bases throughout the Western United States. Twin Peaks, California, Creston, California, Triple J Ranch in California, Petrolia, California, and Tulum, California, the Lady Washington mine, and finally Trementina, New Mexico, which is referred to as the San Miguel Ranch. So those are the locations we know of. There might be others. I know, for example, they had tried to set up a location in Wyoming, but I don't know that really flew. I don't think they could get the property, or something was wrong with that. Anyway, they have these sites, and these things are way out in the middle of kind of nowhere. The Twin Peaks place, for example, is up in the mountains of Big Bear, California, up in the mountains up there. So it's a little hard to get to. It's a little hard to find. They don't make them easy or accessible, and they also have all these locations fully confidential in the world of Scientology. Nobody in Scientology knows anything about this stuff, except what David Miscavige told them in the year 2000. He did a briefing. I think it was the first real open public briefing about these locations, and he didn't even specify the locations. He just showed pictures from them and talked about the archival project and what they were doing with it. And so all of this is about keeping Scientology around in the case of a nuclear war or some other similar holocaust or, pandemic or whatever, some, viral thing. There's many, many ways that we could end up all killing ourselves and destroying the human race, or most of the human race. And so if that were to occur, Hubbard wanted life on this planet, whether it's humans or, what otherwise, to have Scientology. The idea that Scientology is the single most important thing in the universe is a very real and serious belief in Scientology. They take this really seriously. So Hubbard's words, Hubbard's lectures, Hubbard's technology is, as far as Scientologists are concerned, there isn't anything more important than preserving that so that future generations can take advantage of the knowledge and achieve the spiritual freedom and immortality that Hubbard promises, and thereby save civilization and make the quality of life for everybody, that much better and that much more true and real and all of that, according to the Scientology worldview. Okay, so they have this very, very serious goal to do this, but it's the best kept secret in Scientology because hardly any Scientologists even know that this is a thing. And if they do, they really don't know much in terms of the details. They only know that this stuff is stored in the briefings that have been given, which I saw. They talked about not only having L. Ron Hubbard's works preserved, but also taking all the dictionaries that Hubbard recommended, and there is a list of specific dictionaries from specific publishers that L. Ron Hubbard recommends as the dictionaries to have. For example, the Webster's Third New World Edition for young readers, Webster's Dictionary for Young Readers, third edition, I think, is one of the key ones. That's one of the most popular dictionaries in Scientology, all the way up to the Oxford English Dictionary, the big 10 or 12 volume compendium put out by the Oxford University Press that is the final source for, the definitive source for the English language, and everything. And they have various dictionaries in between. They have those stored there too, as well as grammar books, English books, things that would teach somebody how to read, what English is. I mean, there's some kind of symbolic documentation or instructions that were left in these vaults that, you wouldn't do all this work, spend millions, literally millions of dollars investing in the research and the development of archiving this stuff so that it will seriously last for thousands of years, and then not leave any instructions on what it's all about. So there are apparently illustrated or symbolic instructions that anybody could look at and understand how to open up these containers, how to open up this material, what it is, what it's for, how to utilize it. For example, they have these nickel-plated records and gold-plated CDs. I think the records are what's most important because they're literally just turntable records, except they're nickel-plated, and they have record players designed and in these vaults that are solar-powered or hand-cranked. And you can put your, nickel-plated L. Ron Hubbard lecture on the record, put the little needle on and crank it, or get solar power and listen to, there's L. Ron Hubbard talking about, this, that, and the other thing 1,000 years from now. Right? So there were some people in a cave listening to L. Ron Hubbard telling them about engrams. I mean, that's the idea. That is the idea, is that people will be able to learn English. There will be, apparently kids' English books, Dick and Jane books, something like that, and a whole series of educational materials, encyclopedias, reference books, every single book that L. Ron Hubbard ever mentioned in his lectures or writings. I believe they also have copies of those up there. So, Golden Bow, maybe, Freud, some work from Freud or Jung that Hubbard's mentioned. I mean, Hubbard's mentioned a lot of authors in a lot of different places. So anyway, all of that stuff should be there or could be there. So as you can see, some thought was put into it. But after, the thing I want to highlight about this, and the thing that's a little silly about all of this, is that each of these vault locations has a symbol of two interlocking circles with a pair of diamonds inside each circle, or a diamond inside each circle. So there's two diamonds inside two overlapping circles. That symbol is etched or somehow put into the ground so that you can see it from up high. Kind of like the Nazca lines down in Mexico or South America. You have these lines drawn, that look like airstrips or something, right? Well, here you have this great big symbol carved into the landscape around each of these vaults, visible from the air. You look at it on the ground, you can't really make out what it is, but up you get 500 feet up, you can. What's that about? Well, apparently this symbol is supposed to be there as a calling card for, oh, this is an important location that, spiritually you should be connected with, or that somehow is a beacon for, Thetans who will glom onto these locations or find them through this symbol. And yet this symbol is completely unknown in Scientology. Nobody talks about this symbol. Nobody knows anything about the Church of Spiritual Technology or its logos and its mission. I mean, there's very little about this other than this briefing from Miscavige in 2000. This doesn't really get talked about a whole lot unless they're doing fundraising around it. They have fundraised for this archive project millions and millions of dollars from Scientologists. So they've briefed some Scientologists in some detail about this to get money from them. But otherwise, your run-of-the-mill daily Sea Org member, staff member, Scientologist, they're not thinking about, knowing anything about, or briefed in on what this whole archive thing is really all about, or what that symbol means, or any of this. And you'd think, if you were trying to get all the Scientologists on board with this preservation of the tech thing, and you really needed all of them to have it kind of, branded into the side of their head that this symbol is important and that they need to rally to it in the case of some kind of disastrous circumstances, literally epically awful genocidal sort of things, then you'd want to have that symbol very prominent in people's minds in the world of Scientology so that they would know, oh, these locations are very, very important and I need to remember them even into my next life. No such activity occurs in Scientology that I'm aware of. And I was in Scientology for decades. So, I learned way, way more about this entire subject, this entire project, and everything I'm telling you about it after I got out of the Sea Org, because it was the best kept secret when I was in. So, so the master plan to save all this stuff and ensure the future of Scientology seems to have a little bit of a fatal flaw in its execution. And this actually is yet another reason why I believe that David Miscavige is completely, totally, and 1000% couldn't give a shit about the future of Scientology or what L. Ron Hubbard actually intended for Scientologists. He doesn't care. Because if he did, you'd think that this project, which they are investing millions in, and which they are legally obligated to, by the way, because they told the IRS all about this when they got their tax exemption. And the Church of Spiritual Technology is one of the three key organizations that is what that forms the very foundation of what the Church of Scientology is. Because preserving the tech and preserving L. Ron Hubbard's words and lectures and all that, that's how Hubbard achieves immortality. And that was Hubbard's only real goal with Scientology was, I want to be immortal. And if my words and my intentions continue to be executed into the future, then I have achieved a kind of immortality because I will never be forgotten. I believe that's how L. Ron Hubbard was sort of approaching that topic. And, just based on what I've seen and read. So this is what ensures Hubbard's legacy. And to that degree, Hubbard or Miscavige is sort of obligated to keep this thing going. But in a practical sense, in a real world sense, in a, oh my God, what if there was a Holocaust tomorrow kind of sense, this whole project is just a big joke. It's just a big money hole. You just sink money into it. And, a very small number of Scientologists are working actively on this project. And by the way, this is the thing that Shelley is working on. If she's working on anything that we know about, it's this. It's working at the Twin Peaks facility of the Church of Spiritual Technology. So this is what we believe she and a handful of other, very, very hardcore, dedicated Sea Org members, this is their life's work. But again, best kept secret, right? So not really, it's kind of one of those great, big, huge contradictions where you go, well, in order for us to continue to ensure this continues, everybody would have to know about it. You would want everybody to know about this stuff. But instead, this is one of the most confidential things in the world of Scientology. So there you go. And thanks for asking.